Very much. Let's bring in a key member of the January 6th Select Committee, the chair of the House Intelligence Committee, Congressman Adam Schiff of California. Congressman, thank you so much for joining us. Will these hearings lay out new insight into the insurrection? Will they reveal, for example, details that have so far not been made public?
Without a doubt, there will be new information and new details. Certainly the public is aware of a lot of information already through a lot of impressive reporting about the multiple lines of effort to overturn the presidential election. But we expect in these, multimedia presentations that include live testimony, video, audio, documentary evidence, to provide a kind of important texture to this nefarious effort for the first time in our history to overturn a presidential election, interfere with a peaceful transfer of power. We want to expose the actions of the malefactors to the public scrutiny.
So what is the strategy, Congressman, for the witnesses who are refusing to testify publicly? They've testified behind closed doors, but publicly. Are you willing, for example, to agree to ground rules to get some of these reluctant witnesses to speak out during these televised hearings?
Well, Wolf will have to take it on a case-by-case basis. The reality is we have so much information. The challenge is to decide, okay, these are the most important witnesses, these are the most important pieces of evidence. We do have to obviously hone things down, but it is, I think, essential to tell the story, the complete story, to the American people. It wasn't just about January 6th. That was the violent culmination of lots of different efforts to overturn the election, to coerce state legislators and local elections officials through bogus litigation, through pressure campaign on the vice president, through voting to overturn the election in the House of Representatives. So we want to lay out that whole picture for the country.
Will the American public, Congressman, see video clips from the taped interviews your committee has already conducted with witnesses? And we're talking about several witnesses, including Donald Trump Jr., Ivanka Trump, Jared Kushner, for example.
We will certainly consider using evidence that came from the depositions in a variety of different forms. We want to make this visually interesting to the viewing public. And we're not going to be able to call all the witnesses because we've interviewed hundreds of them. So I think it'll be a combination of live testimony. It may be some videotaped interviews. It may be audio tapes. It may be TV clips. I think you'll see really a clever integration of these different sources of information to tell the story and tell it in an easily digestible form.
I'm really looking forward to these public televised hearings. Let me turn, while I have you, Congressman, to Ukraine. You're the chairman of the Intelligence Committee. The House just passed a $40 billion Ukraine aid package. It's now waiting on a Senate vote and waiting, of course, for President Biden's signature after the Senate passes it. Will this be enough, and will it arrive fast enough to tip the scales on the battlefield in Ukraine's favor?
It will arrive quick enough if we can get the Senate to act and we can get that over to the president. I can tell you that the aid that we have approved thus far has moved very quickly from congressional approval to presidential approval and onto the battlefield and dispersed to where it needs to go in Ukraine. So those supply lines are now well orchestrated, and Ukrainians have, I think, done an extraordinary job in getting the material to their fighters and to defend the country. Will this ultimately be the last? It really depends on how long the conflict goes on. But I think the more that we do now, the quicker we can bring this to an end. Once Putin realizes he is not going to accomplish his objectives there, and the costs to Russia have simply become too high. Costs in terms of Russian lives and costs in terms of the sanctions and the impact on the Russian economy and the Russian people.
Yeah, so far the delivery of these javelins, these howitzers, the Stingers, they have moved very, very quickly. Congressman Adam Schiff, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.